Slotkin. It is great to be with you. I'm sorry I can't be in the room with you. We had very late votes last night that went until 11 o'clock, so I wasn't able to physically be with you, but let me just say happy Veterans Day. Thank you for taking the time and for the school district for recognizing Veterans Day this way. If Austin gave an introduction, thank you, Austin, for the introduction. Thank you for the Student Council for even thinking of me and putting this together, inviting me. I'm sorry that we didn't have some time backstage together before the event. We will make that up. I want to thank the teachers and staff. It's hard to be a teacher. We should appreciate our teachers, our admin staff, our administrators, especially for putting on a special event like this on a federal holiday. I appreciate that. And then welcome to all our veterans in the audience. I understand we have folks representing all of the services: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and many of you served in Vietnam, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. Thank you for your service and for coming out and passing that legacy on today in the room. And I think that includes some of your teachers. I understand that Austin and Alex Wolf, both veterans of the Michigan National Guard. I understand Phil Collins is there, former Marine, and somewhere in the audience, my representative for your area, Tom Bratton, who lives in Traverse City but represents that whole sort of northern part of the Lower Peninsula. He is a Navy veteran. So we have a lot of veterans on our staff. I want to give a special shout out to Dave Luck, the local VFW post commander. He's been a fierce advocate for Roscommon veterans. Thank you for your leadership. I'm your senator. I've been a senator for less than a year, but long before I was your new junior senator, I was a national security person. I happen to be what's called a 9/11 baby. I happened to be in New York City when 9/11 happened. I had just moved to New York City. It was my second day of graduate school. I was literally in a remedial economics class, and I walked out of the class to make some copies for the professor, and someone said, "It's so weird, a little plane just hit one of the Twin Towers." And that kicked off a series of events that led the 400 students in my program to circle around one television in the student lounge. We watched as the second plane went into the second tower, and then we started organizing. For the students, I will just tell you that when your country is attacked, kind of all the normal rules go out the window. We started organizing blood drives. We knew that the students who commuted from over the bridges and tunnels would never be able to get home. We did a lottery for who would sleep on whose floor. And we just went down and volunteered at the local hospital, because before the era of cell phones, every single person who had a loved one in those buildings was terrified. And their way of looking for their loved one was to call every single hospital in the city. So we got thousands of calls into the local hospital of desperate people looking for their husband, their mom, their sister. That day changed my life. Having F-16s fly above New York City, having funeral after funeral from law enforcement and from our firefighters who ran towards the towers and up those staircases before they collapsed, changed who I was and what I wanted to do with my life. And I went into national security. I changed all my classes. I knew that national security was what I wanted to do. I got recruited by the CIA about a year later. They came up to campus. They recruited me right out of school. And within a year of starting at Langley, I was sent on my first of 3 tours in Iraq. I am a Middle East terrorism and militia expert by training. So I went to weapons training and to combat driving school, and I served alongside the military, helping them identify the groups that were shooting at US forces and plotting against the US homeland. I spent the better part of my 20s and early 30s doing a year in Iraq, a year back, a year in Iraq, a year back, watching the military do what they do every single day to keep people safe. And it was really one of the most formative experiences of my life. The military and the CIA was designed to be apolitical, so I worked for whoever was my commander-in-chief. I worked under Republican presidents and I worked under Democratic presidents, protecting my country and putting my energy into that. But it is because of that experience of working alongside the military that I feel so passionately about the importance of recognizing Veterans Day. Now, Veterans Day is different than Memorial Day, right? You all know we have Memorial Day in May. That is a time to remember those we have lost. And every single veteran sitting with you today knows what it's like to serve alongside someone, to trust someone with your life and have them make the ultimate sacrifice, not return home. Everyone knows what it's like to recognize the families who are desperately waiting for news back home. But today is Veterans Day. Today is a day to recognize not just those we have lost, but the commitment that our country makes when someone raises their hand, swears an oath to the Constitution, and serves their country, willing to lay down their life for their country. Now, I would say that for me, it's important, it's interesting that you have veterans from different wars sitting with you, right? Our Vietnam era war folks will tell you that the majority of folks who served in that war were drafted. They did not have a choice, just like my grandparents who went to war in World War II, or folks who went to Korea, World War I. That was a draft war where you got a note at the age of 18 in your mailbox saying you were being called up. Since Vietnam, we are very blessed that we have had an all-volunteer force. That means every single person who has joined the military has done it by choice. They have said to themselves, this is something I want to do or I want to try with my life, and either to better myself, to serve my country. There's a million reasons why people join the military, but they made a choice, and I think that's important. An all-volunteer force means that someone says, I believe in this country enough that I'm gonna sign up, I'm gonna volunteer. I'm not waiting for a letter to come to my office or to my house to recruit me. I'm really proud to serve on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. This is a bipartisan committee of Democrats and Republicans who actually, despite what you see in the news, get along very well because we both agree on the commitment that the country makes when they send someone to war, when they send someone out to protect the country. They make a commitment to care for them for the rest of their life. And that is something that is our commitment, every single one of us, our responsibility to uphold, but certainly those of us who make policy, who make laws on veterans issues. And we'll just put a plug in, particularly for the veterans in the room, but for anyone, that my office, my staff that I have in Michigan are designed to help people who are having problems getting things out of the federal government. It's part of what I do. It's called constituent services. And that means if you have a problem, particularly with your VA benefits, because we know it's not always easy to get what veterans deserve out of the VA and out of a whole host of veterans-facing programs. If you have a problem, you need to call my office. We have specialists who all they do is handle veteran casework for this very problem. And we basically bang pots and pans with the appropriate agency until people get what they need. So if you're having trouble getting a benefit, getting reimbursed, getting attention on something, getting qualified, all those things, please reach out to my office, and Tom Bratton is on the floor there and can give you his card so you have the direct line, or just Google it. Now, I think the thing that I always think about when I think about Veterans Day is, particularly since we have folks in the audience who also serve or served in the National Guard, it is someone who makes the decision that the welfare of their country may be more important than their own personal welfare. And there are millions of stories every single day of people who just put their head down. They're not seeking glory. They're not influencers on the internet. They just do incredible acts of bravery and incredible acts of solidarity to their teammates and to their country every single day. And I saw that up close and personal. I had the opportunity to work when my first tour in Baghdad, if you can imagine it, when we invaded Iraq, we took over Saddam Hussein's palace. big, giant, marble, gaudy palace with big murals of Saddam's face everywhere and just kind of over the top. You know, this was a dictator. This is someone who had kept his boot on the neck of his people for 40 years. So it was kind of like a palace to himself. We took over. Those became our offices. So I was working every day in Saddam Hussein's palaces. They put up covers over his murals so you didn't have to look at him every single day. And very early on, the terrorist groups, the Al-Qaeda groups that were fighting us, figured out that they could take hostages, right? That they could grab someone in uniform or a contractor off the street, make a video of him or her, and put that on camera for the world to see. This is long before YouTube and all the easy ways of getting messages out, but they could take a video and they could send it to a TV station and get that out into the ether. And so the FBI came in and we created a hostage task force. And every single branch of the government who had something to offer that task force sat together. And I was the CIA representative. And we had representatives of the military command, folks in uniform. And I just want to tell you that that is where I learned, you know, the FBI is wonderful at hostage negotiation, but these terrorists weren't negotiating. They didn't want a ransom. It wasn't like a TV show where they wanted money. They wanted to make a spectacle of those videos by harming people. And I got to watch what happens when folks in uniform are trying to go after one of their own and rescue one of their own. It was unrelenting. It was a bunch of guys working 22 hours a day to piece together intelligence to try to figure out where their comrades in arms were. Any piece of information they had, they were bringing it back to the team, and we were trying to put together a package so we could go and rescue those folks before they were in any more harm. And one of the things that I always really appreciate about the military, and I think it applies, it's a good life lesson to anyone on any team, is we leave no man behind. We do everything in our power to bring that man or woman back. And that means we drop what we're doing, and we focus our energy on that. So I got to be a part of some really incredible efforts to piece together these puzzles of where these people were, and then watch that go up the military chain, and say, okay, we think that this person is being held in this house, in this neighborhood, by this group, and we're gonna go and kick down the door and get that person. And so it's just a reminder, you know, many of you, I understand you have an incredible girls volleyball team, you've got a lot of different sports teams, you all know what it's like to be a part of a team. That ethos that the military is really the leader on in the world, that you leave no man behind, that you are as strong, that you are stronger as a cohesive unit that works together, that if you've got a teammate that's struggling, you're only as strong as that struggling teammate, so you need to lift them up. That is the ethos of the military. And I will say that my experience of working alongside the military my whole career, and now doing it in a very different way on the Veterans Affairs Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the Homeland Security Committee. I have a big national security portfolio, so we work with the military all day long on policy and legislation. I will just say, if there are those of you who are thinking about service, who are wondering what you're gonna do after graduation, who are mission-driven people, who aren't, you know, it takes all kinds, but some people are built because they're mission driven. They want to be a part of something bigger. The greatest love letter you can send your country is your service to your country. It's putting your blood, sweat, and tears into going into the military, into the intelligence community, into law enforcement, or picking a way to do service at home, working for a nonprofit that helps people who don't have a home or who don't have food. If you are a mission-driven person, and the idea of making big bucks is not what drives you, and it's okay if it does, but some people are built differently, and it's not about the money, it's about being a part of something bigger. I want you to consider service, because we need A democracy is based on good, decent people signing up to work for the country that they love. So I got to see it up close. I'm very, very privileged that I got to watch the military in action, shoulder to shoulder. And it's my privilege to fight for them when they come back home. Now, our country has a mixed history on this. There is no one there, especially if there's Vietnam era folks in the room. We have had really, really dark chapters in how we've handled our veterans. And the Vietnam era folks, you really owe them a debt of gratitude, especially the 9/11 folks, because they put up with being in a firestorm of controversy over the Vietnam War, where people took out their feelings on our Vietnam veterans, where the health care that they deserved, particularly from things like Agent Orange that was used on deforestation in places like Vietnam and Laos, the health care of our veterans was not handled in the best way that it could be. But something that our country does is try and look at our mistakes and improve upon them. And one of the proudest moments I've had as someone working on veterans issues, as a legislator for the past 7 years, was when we were able to pass legislation related to burn pits and the toxic exposure from burn pits that our 9/11 era veterans were exposed to just by serving in places like in Iraq and Afghanistan. For those who don't know, when you're in a war zone, no one picks up the trash, right? There's no trash pickup every day. You burn your trash, no matter what's in it, right? Whether it's jet fuel or food waste or human waste or the whole thing, right? So many of us who served in places like Iraq and Afghanistan were exposed to those burn pits. And there are health issues that come with exposure. So we were able to pass the PACT Act about 4 years ago that basically said if you served in places like Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Syria, you live near a burn pit, you should go to the VA, get checked out, but just by serving in those places, you pre-qualify for veterans assistance, for Veterans Administration healthcare, because you were exposed to toxic things. And the only reason we got that done was because of what happened to the Vietnam veterans with Agent Orange and the advocacy that the Vietnam era veterans did for 30 years to get recognized for themselves. So there is work to do. There is advocacy for our veterans. We make a commitment, but it is something we have to fight to live up to every single day. And the thing that I'd ask you to do today, and this is both for the veterans who are there, but also for the students who are in the audience, it is really important for people to hear the real stories about how people got into service and what their service meant to them. So I'd ask the veterans in the room, who tend to be often a tight-lipped bunch. They don't like talking about their stories. They don't like telling things, even the really heroic things that they've done. Many people go their whole lives and don't tell their stories to their own families sometimes. I want the veterans in the room to please share your stories with the students there. Just tell a small snippet of what it's like to serve so they have some flavor of it when they go out into the world. And for the young people there, ask. You guys are good at asking questions, doing sort of a little bit of probing. Just ask those questions. What was it like? Where were you? For the younger veterans, the 9/11 era veterans, where were you on 9/11? Why did you sign up to serve even though there was no draft? Try to pulse at those stories because that's our living history. That is who we are as Americans and our legacy. So I'm really glad you all are doing this. I'm glad this school district recognizes Veterans Day in such a sort of specific and robust way. I'm proud to be your senator. I'm proud to serve in a very different capacity, often a very messy place right now, Washington, D.C., but it's my honor to advocate and fight on behalf of everyone, whether they voted for me or not. And it is certainly my honor to have served alongside the military and to now be on the right committees to fight for them and what they deserve. And I hope some of you will think about service for your own careers. So thank you for having me. Thank you to the Student Council for inviting me. And just thanks for being a community that recognizes our veterans.